Broadway is like right
Yeah, but and do they be other in by the other building?
everywhere, front to back. Hey man, you check out that. One sleep by the mailbox, one sleep on the back, one sleep on my kitchen. Big man, you got some
I think you just tell them. Push your mic in. Your mic's off. The bass.
good. Okay, I was catching up with you. Are we still doing last? There's a couple things. Check, check. All right, guys. Everybody can have a seat. We're starting our meeting. I'd like to call to order our regular Community Redevelopment Agency meeting. The date is January 17th. The time is 6:26 p.m. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Chair Lawson,
Here.
Chair Pro Temp Lanier,
Here.
Commissioner McCoy,
Here.
Commissioner Miller Anderson,
Present.
Commissioner Botel.
Here.
Also present, the attorney for CRA, Opal McKinney-Williams, Jonathan Evans, the CRA Executive Director, Scott Evans, Director of Planning and Development, Anita Jenkins, Director of Neighborhood Services, Shirley Desir, Interim CRA Clerk. We also have two guests, Chase Howard and Willow Scott, to lead the CRA Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're going to have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. We have Mr. Chase Howard, if you can come to the front, please, and Miss Willow Scott. You guys can come stand up here. Chase is a Riviera Beach resident and he's 6 years old. He currently attends West Riviera Elementary. His favorite subject is math, and when he wants to grow up, he wants to be a police officer. He plays for our Riviera Beach Chargers, and his first year was with 6U this year. Congratulations on your year, Chase. We also have Miss Willow Scott. She's a current resident of Riviera Beach, and she's 7 years old. She attends Northborough Elementary. Her favorite subject is reading, and when she grows up, she wants to be a doctor. She's also a member of our cheerleading squad, our national champion cheerleading squad. Welcome, Miss Willow. They're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone can please stand. And we'll start after you guys. Go ahead. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody give it up for Chase and Willow. These are two of our Chargers and our cheerleaders. So congratulations on an amazing year, guys. Keep being great. Thank you so much. Do we have any additions, deletions, or substitutions from the board? Staff? Disclosures by the commissioner, staff? Motion to adopt agenda?
So moved. Second.
Motion been made and properly second. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Botel,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Chair Pro Temp Lanier,
Yes.
Chair Lawson. That vote passes 5-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Consent agenda. Consent agenda is business routine in nature. The consent is approved by a single majority vote. If any commissioners would like to remove an item from consent, they can do so now with consent at the request of a commissioner. Does anyone want to remove an item from consent? Motion to adopt consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Motion been made and properly seconded. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Botel,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Chair Pro Temp Lanier,
Yes.
Chair Lawson.
Yes.
That vote passes 5-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. No presentations. We're going into our regular agenda. Item 7A.
Resolution number 2024-01 of the Board of Commissioners of the Riviera Beach Community Redevelopment Agency, authorizing the chairperson and executive director to execute an extension to the agreement with the firm Jones Lang LaSalle to provide public-private partnership advisory services to the Marina Village redevelopment project and providing an effective date. The acceptance of public comment cards are now closed. Mr. Chair, we have no comment cards.
Motion to approve resolution number 2024-01 of the Board of Commissioners. Second.
Motion been made and properly seconded. Mr. Evans?
Mr. Chair and members of the board, at this time, if I can have the Director of Planning and Development, Mr. Scott Evans, to make this presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
Good evening, Mr. Evans.
Members of the board. The agency is requesting the Board of Commissioners to adopt a resolution to amend the contract for Jones, Lang, and LaSalle. They are a public-private partnership who've been working on the negotiation for the Phase 2 Marina project. This will extend their services to advise, prepare, develop, and manage the remaining elements in the project. Negotiations have been successfully carried out by JLL with the goal to achieve alignment of development objectives, the financial terms, the key business items, community benefits, and the extension is needed to complete the negotiations that have been ongoing. The existing contract will expire on January 24th, 2024. During the past year, the agency was able to negotiate with the assistance of JLL the complete ground leases for Element 7 and Element 8 of the Marina Village Phase 2. These agreements, including the lease agreement, which was amended in December last month, will bring over 500 new residential units to the Broadway corridor. And we have made significant progress by also in December approving a letter of intent, which included the business terms for 4 waterfront restaurants, 150-room Margaritaville hotel, 875-unit car parking garage, and 80,000 square feet of retail marketplace and family entertainment center. The contract amendment and the scope of services sets forth the procedures and duration of the work to help the CRA analyze the remaining elements of the project. The scope of services is set up into a series of different tasks. Task 1 would be to negotiation of an agreement for the Marina Village Event Center. This is estimated to last 2 months. As a part of this task, they would facilitate a workshop with the board on January 31st, and then utilize the input gathered from that to develop that agreement for future approval by the board. The second task would be to negotiate ground lease for the remaining elements. This is for elements 1 through 3, which are the waterfront restaurants, element 5, which is the family entertainment center and marketplace, and element 6, which is the Margaritaville hotel and parking garage. Task 3 would be a specific parking agreement related to the new garage. And those 3 tasks would be provided under the existing, with a continuation of the existing monthly fee that's paid to JLL. There's actually 4 additional tasks that are included, but they would be on an as-needed basis. And so we would request them to do the requirements related to task 4, 5, 6, and 7 as needed based on an hourly basis. And that includes to negotiate any future amendments to the existing elements, the ground leases, to negotiate key business terms for element 4, which would be some sort of public attraction that might be added to Bicentennial Park in the future, to provide any architectural engineering assistance related to the programmatic goals and objectives of the city as these project plans are developed and submitted to the city for review and eventually to the building department for construction. And the optional last task would be, and these are if needed only, if the CRA had a particular element in the project that they wish not to proceed with, then JLL would be ready, if requested, to develop an RFQ package for that element to proceed if the board decided that particular element needed to go back out. Funding for this expenditure has provided in the approved 2023-2024 CRA budget. The contract amendment will provide a continuation of the monthly fee, which is $25,000 per month And this time period is estimated to be completed in August. After that, that's when we expect to go to an as-needed basis for the services. Over the past 2.5 years, they have been compensated at an average monthly rate of about $26,000, which is a total of $745,000. And a value analysis of that total amount expended during that 28-month period found that they had negotiated on behalf of the city and CRA and the residents agreement terms equal to $308 million of direct financial impacts to the city and the CRA, and that's rent, future rent, and taxes by the new development projects. So we feel they've achieved very good value for the work that they've provided. The contract extension is for 2 additional years, and the services would be provided at the same rates as the current contract until the first 3 tasks are completed. The not to exceed amount for this period is $220,000. Additional services will then be available to be provided on an as-needed basis based on their hourly rates, and that would be limited to approvals in future CRA annual budgets. Staff recommends approval of this resolution so we can extend our work with Jones Lang and LaSalle. Over 2.5 years, it's been certainly a long process, but we are very close to completing all of the elements. And this board made great progress in December, approving both the LOI and the amended Element 8 ground lease. And so we hope to take the next 6 months to complete the remaining elements for that specifically will end in hopefully City Council approval of all the final ground leases for all of the Marina project. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments?
There are no public comment cards, Mr. Chair.
Comments from the board?
Chair,
Commissioner, go ahead.
I wanted to ask, you said 308 million over how many years? Mr. Scott.
The financial impacts are calculated over the next 45 years.
And how much have we spent thus far?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Evans, go ahead.
Yeah, thus far, we paid JLL $745,000.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Lanier. Pro Temp, any other comments from the board?
Yes,
Commissioner McCoy, go ahead.
Mr. Scott Evans, that number again was how much?
I'm
Total,
sorry.
in total that we spent with them?
Yes, we've spent $745,000.
745, but at least for the first 2 years, they were at 30,000 per month. Times 2 years, that's 720,000 itself. So we're talking about another 6 months. I think they've been down to 25,000. It far exceeds 740,000, Mr. Scott Evans. Are you certain that's correct?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Evans, go ahead.
Yes, for the first period of time that they're working for us, they did an analysis of the existing project and then produced some recommendations about 6 months later, which were reviewed by the board. And so during that time, they worked on a lump sum because they weren't on an ongoing basis. They just analyzed the project and then made recommendations to the board. So during that time, they weren't always on that monthly contract.
Okay, follow up.
Commissioner, go ahead.
And then you spoke of this hourly, I guess, services done on an hourly basis. Is that rate set forth in this agreement?
Yes, attached is their hourly rates for the different professionals in their company. And we did this because we do want to retain their services, but we feel that it will be, some months we'll need them and some months we may not. And depending on the demand for their services, we didn't want to be locked into a monthly service amount after tasks 1 through 3 were completed.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. McCoy.
And I think we discussed this yesterday. So there was an amendment not to exceed. added to the resolution or some sort of change
Uh,
contemplated?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Evans, go ahead.
Yes, we amended the resolution to provide the maximum amount during this fiscal year, which would be $220,000. Any funding that would be projected would be required to approve by the board in the following year's budget. And at that time, we would be on an as-needed basis. So we would be following the hourly rates.
So I'm clear, 220 carries us through September 30th?
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Evans, go ahead.
Yes.
And then after that, it's going to be on an hourly basis?
Mr. Chair, ideally, we'll be finished in June or July with the monthly billing. If we can get the project to move along as quickly as possible. So our goal is to get to the as-needed basis billing by the end of July, possibly even June.
Where are we at with the current contract? When is that set to expire?
Mr. Evans.
The current contract expires January 24th of this year.
Next week?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Follow up to that comment. If the contract expires next week and we do not extend it, what type of billing, where do we stand in regards to consulting services? Would we just be on a monthly? Would we have no services provided? Would staff then have to take over the responsibility? What happens?
I believe that what we would have to do is get board direction on whether it was an issue with JLL. And we would need to have a public-private development consultant. So we would need to come up with some options to bring back to the board for approval if you didn't approve their contract extension, whether that be a different type of contract with JLL or a contract with a different P3 company.
When you say that we would need to, is that a requirement of our charter that we have a consultant negotiating these deals?
No, we don't have a requirement. That was just my recommendation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I was confused as to the need because I've seen other agencies where it's negotiated internally, so I just know the cost is fairly high. But that's why the same concern as this negotiated contract, we get this done within a timely fashion. So if we extend it for 6 months, we're trying to have everything settled within these 6 months. Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Can you repeat? Was that a question?
Rhetorical. It's okay. Thank you. Comments from the board?
Let me ask one more question. So
Please.
the work that you're proposing will be done within the 6 months?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Evans, go ahead.
Yes, in the first 6 months, it is our hope that we'll complete the first 3 tasks, which includes bringing to the board for approval, both the CRA board and the city council, the final ground leases and development agreements for all of the remaining elements. After that, there might be a needed for additional services, but those are the critical tasks that we need to get done in the next 6 months.
Okay.
There's no comments for that? Any
Chair.
comments from Commissioner McCoy? Go ahead.
Yes, I'm literally teetering on being apprehensive about this because here's my concern. This sounds like deja vu, members. Like when we started in 2019, we had this whole optimism about redeveloping our marina, and to be 5 years in, $1 million spent on consultants, and only 2 ground leases negotiated. Is there not anybody on staff that could have done this? And I'm just going to be tremendously heartbroken. I would expect there's some accountability and some backbone by my colleagues to hold somebody responsible if this deal doesn't go through after spending $1 million. And actually, I think we'll be at 5.5 years at that point. And then if you go back and really truthfully say it, this solicitation came out in June or July of 2018. This has to be the longest development project in the history of any community redevelopment agency that I ever heard of. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm going to support this and hold my nose and vote, but it's like we're backed into a corner with nowhere to go. And I'm really would have thought we'd have been way past 2 executed ground leases. And certainly I know there's back and forth on each side. And I will tell you, I did hear from specifically at my inquiry, the development team did share with me, I believe it was yesterday, that they have made some significant progress with getting, I think it was $13 million from Live Local dollars. So, you know, at least I know we had some concerns and angst about what was being developed on the two sites 7 and 8. So I'm happy to report that we've gotten, you know, at least a nod and support from the state on this. I'm just concerned that if we don't deliver on this other part of the mixed retail and restaurants, then, you know, we've spent 5 years and $1 million on consultants, and we got to have half-baked jobs. So that's all I have, and I'm going to reluctantly vote for this, and with optimism that we can try to see this through. And I'm not sure what's involved, but 6 months, I would hope it's a much shorter time frame. And that should come with some sort of reports. I mean, we give you guys direction. It's like we don't hear again until 6 months, and guess what happens? 6 times 30 is $180,000, and it's like, yeah, but one staff person should have been able to negotiate this, and this is the way it's been in many of the other CRA agencies that I've seen and been a part of and had the opportunity to work with. So, you know, it's almost like we get in these positions and, you know, we continue to have to pour money into this. So I'm hopeful that we can bring this to a close. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner McCoy, and I echo the sentiments. Mr. Evans, I want to get this done. We're going to be coming up on 2 years on some of the board, and we just want to get this done. And there's no more delays that we can even tolerate, because it would look as if we weren't able to accomplish some major things with just this marina. We know that across the board, there's so many great things happening, but for this project pertaining, we want to get this negotiated and finalized. So if we can try to bring this to a head in the next few months to close this out. Madam Clerk, do we have any additional comments?
Mr. Chair, there are no public comments.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Botel,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Lanier,
No.
Chair Lawson.
Yes.
That vote passes 4-1 with Pro Chair Temp Lanier dissenting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. 7B?
Resolution number 2024-02 of the Board of Commissioners for the Revere Beach Community Redevelopment Agency, amending the bylaws for the Revere Beach CRA. The acceptance of public comment cards are now closed. Mr. Chair, we have no comment cards.
Motion to adopt?
Motion to approve resolution number 2024-02. Second.
Motion been made and properly seconded. Mr. Evans?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, pursuant to a directive that was provided to this board, the CRA Legal Counsel has made modifications to the bylaws and provided for it in the resolution to effectively amend the bylaws that provides for the corresponding language that mirrors the city concerning the setting of the agenda. It abrogates those authorities to both the executive director and the chair to work in collaboration on effectively establishing the agenda that would be coming before the Board of Commissioners for consideration. At this time, staff is prepared to answer any questions, and legal is present as well to answer any additional questions concerning that. I do want to inform the board that to amend your bylaws, it does require 4 votes in the affirmative to effectively amend the bylaws of the CRA. And at this time, we can answer any questions the board may have.
Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments?
Mr. Chair, there are no public comment cards.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Chair.
Commissioner Lanier, go ahead. Pro Tem.
I wanted to ask about this amendment. Does this include the stipulation that is a part of our charter that there should be no interference with the day-to-day activities of the city manager? Does that include that?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Mr. Evans, go ahead.
We were only directed by the board to effectively amend the setting of the agenda section. So no, it does not include that.
I need to have an amendment to this to make sure that that is included, because that is That is what's happening at the city, and if we're trying to mirror the city, we need to make sure that we have or respect our charter as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Lanier. Additional comments from the board? There was a request for an amendment to have this mirror, but just for clarity's sake, Pro Temp Lanier, you're looking for the resolution to incorporate a non-interference clause with this resolution as well?
Yes.
Ms. Opal, legal, would this be something that we would incorporate into the resolution in regards to the interference that's been adopted by our charter, or how would that pertain to this item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe that that would need to be incorporated into the bylaws, because the revision that you're looking at right now is a revision to the bylaws. So if you're wanting to mirror what is in city council ordinance, you would put it in the bylaws. You can amend your bylaws at any meeting, so you could act on this and then direct us to bring another bylaw revision at the next meeting.
So for clarity, the charter amendment that was done on the city side was not effectively changed on the CRA side, or adopted on the CRA when it comes to the non-interference clause?
Not to my knowledge.
Mr. Chair, if I may, with respect to the day-to-day operations or what have you, the language is not explicit in the bylaws. It does communicate exactly who's responsible for the activities, but it does not have the same type of language that's provided for, that the city does have in the charter concerning the executive director, because it would be the executive director. And on the city side, of course, it would be the city manager.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Evans. Thank you, Madam Attorney. And Pro Temp Lanier, I agree that would be a resolution that the staff would need to work on and bring back to us so that the interference clause could be discussed and adopted at hopefully our next meeting. If board is in support of that, if they can go ahead and direct staff to come back for the next meeting to bring that resolution.
Yeah, because I want to make sure that if we're going to make changes to the bylaws, that they mirror the city's bylaws.
Thank you. Thank you, Pro Temp. Commissioner Botel?
I agree.
Thank you.
I'm fine.
Commissioner Melanson? Commissioner McCoy?
Yes, no concerns. I will say though, the CRAs are set up much differently than what a city council is. And much of CRAs, if you must know, I think is not even really driven by our bylaws, but more by 163, which actually sets forth the convention and composition of what CRAs are supposed to be. Because in fact, we don't even have to serve as the CRA. In many organizations, there's a whole complete body. So if that's the desire of the board, I certainly would support it, but I would hope that it's consistent with provisions that's already established and rights that's already vested by commissioners in state law.
I agree, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner McCoy. Additional comments? Mr. Evans, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, so to kind of unpackage things, because you do have a situation where the item before you is to amend the bylaws for the purposes of the coordination with the agenda. So if the board was to act on that, and then the board can provide staff separate direction to bring forward a potential amendment, that would be subsequent action. We just don't want to commingle it for the purposes of this particular item.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. And I believe that we are going to act on this item now, and then I believe we have a consensus from the board to move forward with bringing that as a separate item. But we'll go ahead and address it after we've disposed of this one and voted on this item. Any additional comments from the commissioners? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Botel?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy? Chair Pro Temp Lanier? Chair Lawson? That vote passes 5-0.
Thank you. And commissioners, Mr. Evans, our executive director, is looking just for clear direction. I believe we did have a consensus, but to bring back a resolution to address the non-interference clause, and similar to what's in the city charter.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner McCoy, go ahead.
So let's talk about that, because, you know, if you're looking to bring back what's in the city charter, exactly, it says that members shall not give direction to any employee that's subject to the city manager. Pro Tem actually said city manager, so if it's her desire to refer to that as the executive director of the CRA, that needs to be clarified, because she specifically said city manager. Secondly, If you look at our charter, that's all it says, that we shall not, or council nor the mayor individually shall give direction to. However, what does it mean to have it in there if there provides for no penalties or anything of the sort? And we've had this charter amendment in since 2019, and it means absolutely nothing because there's never been any provisions. In fact, our charter says to be later established by city council ordinance that there has to be some sort of method for a due process hearing. So if it's the desire to put this in place, then I think you need to encapsulate not just a specific provision of preventing interference, but what those consequences and recourse and due process looks like, because our city charter does not have that in there, and that should have been done. And what I've realized, and I've had this conversation with the city attorney, there are several municipal organizations that have similar language, but you know what they lack? None of them actually provide what those penalties are when a person violates or is alleged to have violated that provision.
Thank you, Commissioner McCoy. And I actually would agree that even with the language of trying to instill this into the bylaws, we would have to determine is based upon the executive director versus the city manager in the event that the role is separated in the future. Right now, that's a lot to unpack, so I think that we can kind of bring this item back to discuss a little bit more in depth so that we can understand how we're going to proceed with this item. Let's go ahead and get this agenda over, and then if we want to have some additional discussion after we've completed the last item on this agenda, we can, and then determine and give staff a clear direction as to how we want to proceed. Madam Clerk, 7C.
Request for the Revere Beach CRA Board to review the development project proposed by Found Care. The acceptance of public comment cards are now closed. Mr. Chair, we have no comment cards.
Do we have a motion to adopt?
So move.
Motion been made and properly seconded. Madam Clerk, I'm sorry, Mr. Evans?
This wasn't a vote, this is just a request to review it.
There's none of resolution? I apologize, you are right. No adoption needed. Mr. Evans?
Mr. Chair and members of the board, at this time, I'm going to ask the Director of Planning and Development, Mr. Scott Evans, to make this presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The agency is requesting the Board of Commissioners to review the proposed new development project, which is submitted by Found Care. The proposed project is located at 3501 Broadway, which is on the west side of the corridor, south of Silver Beach Road. The site is vacant property. It's owned by the city of Riviera Beach, and it's been leased to Found Care for 99 years. The proposed development will establish a needed health center for the community and will enhance healthcare accessibility for Riviera Beach residents, and they serve a locally underserved populations. The new site plan applications that are submitted to the city that fall within the city's the CRA boundaries are required to be reviewed by the CRA board. This is identified in the Land Development Code, which identifies both the Planning and Zoning Board and the CRA board as review agencies. And then those recommendations are provided to the City Council in advance of final approval. The proposed project will promote the redevelopment of the Broadway corridor. It's been designed consistent with the urban design principles that are established in our CRA plan. The projects that feature good urban design produce both economic and social benefits to the community. This project will contribute to the goal of creating a safe downtown with accessible public spaces, active walkable streets, and providing resident and neighborhood services in close proximity to the neighborhoods. This project, and as shown on screen, is the west elevation and the entrance to the Found Care. The health center features an expansive waiting area with a two-story glass design. This includes 15,000 square feet. It includes multiple comprehensive services, primary adult and pediatric care, dental services, behavioral health, infectious disease, on-site testing, a pharmacy, and women's health services. The building orientation and placement is critical to promoting pedestrian activity along the corridor. When buildings are close to the street and integrated into the sidewalks, they provide shape and enclosure to the street. And this actually helps to make vehicles and the drivers of them who are passing through the corridor to pay a lot more attention, not only because of the buildings and the line of buildings, but then they pay more attention to the residents, pedestrians, and it just makes the overall area safer. This project will implement the following redevelopment strategies for this area, including improving the look, feel, and investment potential of Broadway. It will create jobs, provide opportunities for local small business, provide needed neighborhood services within the city, and will place buildings along the street in accordance with the urban design principles of the CRA plan. The project is also providing 5,000 square feet of incubator space, which will be leased to the CRA for $1 a year rent. Again, it's a 2.5 acre site, and 5,000 square feet of the structure will be for the purposes of providing incubator businesses. And that the incubator selection process will actually be brought back before this board in the month of February. The Planning and Zoning Board reviewed this project last week and voted to recommend approval to the City Council. On the screen above, this is the view along Broadway, and this would be where the three to five business incubators, individual businesses, could move into this space, which fronts along Broadway. The project has included attractive landscaping. It will include more than $8 million of new construction and will help redevelop vacant property consistent with our downtown development regulations. In order to help the board visualize what the project will look like, we have prepared a 3D model for your review. There we go. So this is, you can see, this is the view from Broadway. And along in front was spaces for eating and some outdoor seating for tables if the board elects to put a restaurant there. This building has an attractive design. Staff is recommending that the board vote to recommend approval of this project to the City Council. They're providing ground floor commercial space adjacent to the street for the CRA's use. As you can see here, this is a walking path that's been creatively put around the dry retention area. They've put their parking at the side or the rear of the building, which is required by the downtown development regulations and our urban design. That's the entrance to Found Care. As you can see, it's a multi-story glass entrance. The project features a modern design. The applicant is proposing to make a significant investment to create a really aesthetically pleasing development. And the incubator space, of course, will also provide opportunity for our local new businesses and entrepreneurs. And so we're, again, requesting the board to provide any comments that you may have related to this project and vote to recommend approval of the project to the City Council, finding that it's consistent with the goals and strategy of the Community Redevelopment Plan. The project architect is also here, and we'll go over the site plan and the renderings for the board.
Commissioner McCoy, go ahead first.
Okay, so if we're not here on site plan, why do we need to go through that?
Those are my exact comments.
I mean, the question that's before us is this consistent with the plan? I think you did a great job with the 3D rendering. I would love to, hear from them, but they've already been reviewed at P&Z, and then we're going to see them again 2 more times on the City Council. So unless specific members want to hear on the details of the site plan, which inevitably has to be reviewed again, then I'm not sure if there's really a need.
I would echo the same sentiments. that we're going to see the site plan again for our site plan approval, second reading. We're gonna have to see it. I don't know if this is necessary for reveal of the board, if our commissioners would like to see the site plan. Pleasure of the board,
I just have a question.
please. Hold on, one second, Pro Tem. Anybody else want to see the site plan? No? Pro Tem Lanier, go ahead.
I have a question. When you showed the rendering and you showed the retention area that was covered in grass,
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Evans, go ahead.
Yes, that's a dry retention area. So it only collects water during rainfall events. And so, yes, it's grass.
I was curious. There was an issue, not an issue, but there was some conversation about the housing authority project that's on the Alpha site in terms of a retention. And if that can work for that particular site, I was thinking that if it's the same situation, then there should not be an issue with that retention site at the Alpha property. Am I talking about the same thing? Or
Mr.
not?
Chair?
Mr. Evans, go ahead.
Yes, I believe the conversation was related to the Alpha site. I think in the case of the Alpha site, the dry retention area was very large. So if you were to put some underground water storage on that particular site, that would allow you to put more affordable housing. So I think that was
Okay.
the trade-off.
I was curious to know how that could be remedied. Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you, Pro Tem. Additional comments from the commissioners? I did want to just preface my comments, just to say how thankful I am for Found Care. Thank you for guys for your investment in the community and for supporting us and for being a staple here. I've been very consistent with the comments about these 2.5 acres. And I just want to make sure we have on the record that commissioners and board members, we have to be mindful of every piece of land and parcel that we provide. 2.5 acres was recently approved for the MEHOP program at 26 stories. To have a 2-story clinic, hospital facility in our community is going to be a blessing for our residents. But we could have had 20 stories of housing above that. Be mindful of what we're spending because we're going to bond $115 million. We need to generate more revenue. I do not believe this was the highest and best use for this parcel. And if we were at the time when we approved this only at 6 to 8 stories, we should have asked for highest and best use. So again, I'm thankful for Found Care, and I've had conversations with Found Care about my support of their organization. I just believe that every parcel moving forward needs to be something that's going to benefit the entire community, helping with our tax base, helping with our CRA development, and making sure we're providing opportunities for our residents. We did not use this as highest and best use, and we have facilities that are in Lake Park that are going up, that have market rate condos that are selling for $1.5 million. Those would really help our tax base if we had this above our hospital that's coming by Found Care. So please take this into consideration when these projects come to us so that we're using and getting highest and best use. Found Care, I'm going to be supporting this item moving forward because the pleasure of the board is to move forward with this. But board, I need you to understand is that we cannot waste any land in our community. 2.5 acres is a major parcel of development that could have assisted these residents and not increase the taxes that are bound to come to these residents. Any additional comments from my commissioners? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
So are we voting or no?
I'm sorry. This is just direction. What are you looking for us?
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Evans.
We're requesting that you vote to find the project consistent with the goals and strategies of the CRA plan and recommend approval to the City Council.
Can we have a motion? For
So
that?
move.
So, second.
Motion been made and properly seconded. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Botel,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller Anderson, Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Lanier.
Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Chair Lawson,
Yes.
that vote passes 5-0.
Thank you. Discussion by Executive Director.
None, Mr. Chair.
Madam Attorney.
Nothing.
Mr. Chair.
Comments from the Commission, starting with Commissioner Botel.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner
Mr.
Pro
Chair.
Tem Lanier. I'm sorry. Oh, we do have public comments. Please, how many public comment cards do we have?
Mr. Chair, we have 3 comment cards.
3? Thank you. If we can have public comment. Comments from the public shall begin at 7:30 unless there's no further business In the event it shall begin sooner. In the event its items considered at 7:30, then comments from the public shall begin immediately after. Please be reminded, CRA Board of Commissioners has adopted the rules of decorum governing public conduct during official meetings, which has been posted at the front desk. In an effort to preserve order, if any of the rules are not adhered to, Commissioner Chair may have any disruptive speaker or attendee removed from the podium, from the meeting, or the building if necessary. Please govern yourselves accordingly. Public comments, Madam Clerk?
We now have 4 public comment cards, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Leah Hamilton, hopefully I said that correctly, followed by Margaret Shepherd.
Hello, Ms. Leah, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Welcome, thank you.
Thank you. I was wanting to discuss a sidewalk that was installed by the CRA. The address is 821 West 7th Street. I sent an email. I guess I sent it to the wrong department. September, there was pictures that were taken, but it looked like the person was sitting in the car, took the pictures, and I sent pictures back. I have emails here with the pictures showing that the sidewalk is at an angle so that cars, low cars, bottom of their car scrapes upon the sidewalk or the driveway. So I requested that it get repaired so that no injuries or damage to the cars. One of the tenants that lived in the apartment indicated that they had so much damage that they had to go get their car repaired, but it wasn't the same. So they ended up having to get a completely new car. And they have, receipts and damages for that. They also expressed the damages. And the tenants, they aren't really talking, but they did try to get help. This is from September 2022. I've made phone calls. I've sent phone calls, emails, and I sent a service request, but no action has been taken to repair it. So I wanted to know what needs to be done so that the repairs can take place.
The Executive Director will address all comments at the end. All right, thank you for your comments, Ms. Hull.
Can she get her address again?
Ms. Hull, could you give your address one more time, please?
The address of the property is 821 West 7th Street.
Thank you for your comments. Madam Clerk, please, if you could remember the timer. I did set it on mine, but if you can remember the timer.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Margaret Shepherd, followed by Dolores Brooke Hamilton.
Welcome, Ms. Shepherd. How are you?
Welcome. Thank you for reminding me of the time. I didn't want you to stop me again. But to all of you in your respectful places, I thank Chief Kerr for reminding me to kind of keep it low key. But I was at the convention center to the breakfast, and I really couldn't get out of there. I had people touching me and talking to me and talking to me. Really didn't enjoy my breakfast because I was into the political scene of people talking to me. I want to go on record by saying, not me, I'm just a messenger, so please don't go home and talk about me and say I said it. But they have openly endorsed Julie Botel. Julie Botel was over at the Lindsay Davis Center was a couple of weeks ago, and they were touching me again, and they were asking me, was that her? That's her. And I said, that's her. And they endorsed her. They don't know Mr. Spiritus, and I can't explain Mr. Spiritus because I really don't know him. I know of him, but I don't know him. So I want to go on record by saying that Mr. Leroy Nelson, who I have not met, but I was at a gala, let me put it like that, and I'm reading up on him, but they are happy that he went back on the ballot. Young, upstart young man. I think he's in your same profession. So I think it's going to be a lovely race. They're talking, and they're making sure that their voices is heard. I want to go on record, Mr. Evans, by saying I was in the courtroom, and I want to say to the public, it was the most shameful scene I've ever witnessed. And I've been in the courtroom, but I've never seen an employee in such shambles. Tawana King had to go in protective custody in a locker room, scared half out of her mind. And when she came in to testified, they had to put her right there with the sheriff, bailiff, I guess. I want to say it's just deplorable. If you want to protect Mr. Evans, you have to protect your employees. Nobody out of all the years I've been here ever went into the clerk's office without an invitation. No council person has ever done that. And it's deplorable that I don't even call him a man. I really, really don't, because men do not treat women in that perspective manner. I've never had my husband talk to me above a whisper. And I dare to tell you, I would not have any employee or any resident talk to me in that manner. But I want to say to you, it was just deplorable, Mr. Evans, to see Dr. Motel. I thought she was going to faint. And I tell you, you all have to do better with setting the standards. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Shepherd.
Delcia Brooke Hamilton, followed by Doretta Polk.
Welcome, Ms. Brooks Hamilton.
Good evening, everyone. Council, Mr. Chair, and Mr. Jonathan Evans. My name is Delcia Brooks Hamilton, CEO of Pangea Grill, and I'm basically going to speak in reference to the Marina Phase 2. This is 2024. I started this process in 2015. I know the community is probably saying, there she goes again. However, I think my persistence and my determination has gotten me to this point. What I need to find out is, where do I fit in the whole process? When am I going to be receiving the lease agreement so that I can sign and move forward? I am ready, and I know I've been getting a lot of feedback from the community. They're ready to see me on the waterfront and having my restaurant. I have got everything ready to go. I just need to have an update as to when the final agreements is going to be signed so that I know where do I fit in the process. And it's been long overdue. And we really need to get this project moving forward so that the people in the community can have a place to go. And I can start moving forward in building my restaurant. So I need to find out when the agreements are going to be signed so that we can finally move forward. And, that's basically what I have to say. I am just tired of this whole entire process. It's been 9 years. And I don't think anyone needs to wait 9 years to do business with the city. So I am ready. And I know I've been saying this forever, and I'm ready to move forward. And I just need to get started. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am.
Doretta Polk, followed by Fane Losman.
Welcome, Ms. Polk.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Doretta Polk, and I just want to first give a hats off to Commissioner Dr. Julie Bittel. I'm so happy that you won the case. We definitely need you on the ballot. We need you. And I want to, last year in December, we had the last CRA meeting. And I must apologize again to Mr. Scott Evans because I misspoke. It was concerning the AT&T that they had come into my yard and this, that, and the other. I thought the CRA was aware of this, and he absolutely was not. So whenever I make a mistake, this is my motto, correct it. I went to him and I apologized to him, and he was so gracious that evening. But I made the mistake here on the diocese, and that's what I want to correct. An apology again. I'm so sorry. But I want to also tell Chief Coleman, concerning Captain Vessel. I think that's her name, if I'm correct. I may not pronouncing it correctly, but Captain Vessel, a young lady, okay, she was absolutely phenomenal. I had an issue at my home. Well, it was in the neighborhood, and she handled it very well, her and a couple of other officers. And this is when a young man, you can tell he's had some kind of mental issues. And I just want to commend how she handled that with professionalism, with courtesy, and with humbleness also. And she did a very good job. Last night, I went to a seminar concerning integrated healthcare system, and it was absolutely very informative. It was given by our Commissioner Shirley Lanier, and it was very, 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 very informative. And I wish that when they have the next one, it was partners with community partners, and there was a doctor by the name of Monique Brown there, and her office, her building office, mental institution is on 20th Street, the street I live on. And she brought out a lot of valuable information trying to help the community with the mental health. And we got a lot of people with mental health issues. And I thank you so much for having that seminar.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Pope.
Fane Lozman.
Welcome, Mr. Lozman.
Good evening, Fane Lozman. A lot of people come and visit Riviera Beach and want to have a good time. They visit places in the CRA district. They expect the police officers who work in that district to follow the law. I think we have Coleman out there in the audience. Maybe he should deal with this matter. Sergeant Lee, who's assigned to the CRA district, gave me a uniform traffic citation. Uniform traffic citation is normally for speeding, drunk driving, something to that effect. He gave me a uniform traffic citation for parking my vehicle on the grass adjacent to my property. It's quite clear under Florida Statute 316.1945 that a uniform traffic citation is not given for violation of a municipal or county parking violation. Okay, we need to make sure that men and women that are assigned to the CRA district know what state parking laws are and how that applied. Because when I didn't pay my ticket, my license was suspended, a D6 suspension. I had to go pay the ticket and get my license reinstated. How many other people has that happened to? You know, we have a new police chief. I expect the men to understand what a uniform traffic citation is and what a parking violation in the city is. So I did think that's important. I don't know how many other people this happened to, but we need to take care of that.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Lozman.
Mr. Chair, that is the end of public comments.
Thank you. Mr. Evans, did you want to address any public comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair. With regards to the sidewalk matter, staff has communicated that there has been limited communications, but they are going to reach out to the resident today to provide for what's the next steps concerning that particular matter. But there was an initial assessment, but there is going to be a follow-up assessment as well as conversation with regards to that. So they can be looking for some communications from staff within the next 24 hours. Additionally, the other comment concerning Marina Phase 2, as the board knows, pursuant to the action that the board just took, we are working to execute the lease agreements for the activities and the restaurant pads and the like. Who the outfit that we're working with, APD, who they contract with or subcontract with for the purposes of the restaurant activities, we have no information concerning that. That's a conversation and discussion that is outside of the discussions with staff. And so we don't have any information, but we can definitely communicate that to the individual and they can have conversations with them in greater details, but we're not aware of any arrangements or agreements that those parties are contemplated. And that concludes my comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner comments, Miller Anderson? Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner McCoy?
Sorry.
Thank you. No further comments from the board?
Yes, I
Pro
just wanted
Tem, go
to add to Mrs. Park's commendation for the community meeting we had last night. It was not just mental health, it was just health in general for the city of Riviera Beach. They were asking community residents, what does the city need in terms of health? And that included mental health, that included insurance issues, that included not able to pay issues, and it was in conjunction with found care as well. So we wanted to make sure that, and we're going to have a series of these meetings to make sure that people in this community understand what it is when we talk about health and what do they need when we talk about health.
Thank you, Pro Tem. Residents that are here, we're going to go straight into public comments when we start our board meeting. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes. With no further business, meeting's adjourned.
¿Qué pasó?